I think we should whisper it. I think Kenilworth Road might be becoming a fortress again. Shh.
7 games unbeaten at home from where we've been in the last 18 months. That deserves recognition. And all of the criticisms that we had of this side, it's got no character. It's got no sort of bounce back ability. It's got no fight about it. You can't level them at it now. We have grown up on a DNA of having a centre forward, a number 9 who wins every header in the box and scores lots of goals. You've got Mick Harford and Brian Steene if you're of the vintage prior to me. Steve Howard, Danny Hilton, James Collins, Carlton Morris if you're of a new brigade. As fans, we've just got to appreciate what Wales' role is. That's kind of old school football, really.
They're all Kadir finishes this season. He's absolutely managing his own one-man goal of the season competition, and that is another one to add into the oeuvre. French that.
I didn't think it was English. In a week where Stranger Things aired its final show on Netflix, we saw lots of stranger things in terms of decisions, Jimbo.
You're at least 10 days late.
The town made it 10 unbeaten in all competitions at Kenilworth Road on Saturday with a come-from-behind victory against Stevenage. And alongside me to look back on a much more positive afternoon of football is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, always like a win, particularly at get a new year off in style.
I had a great weekend. I hope everyone else did.
I'm sure we'll hear all about that great weekend right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast. This season the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, Jimbo and myself are here to look back on Luton Town 2, Stevenage 1. We'll discuss big new signing and so much more all around it. And we'll do that in a moment. But before we touch on football, Jimbo, news came out last week that Town fan Nick Owen has had surgery for kidney cancer. We would like to send our best wishes to Nick and hope that he has a safe, speedy and full recovery. And we'll look forward to seeing him at Kenilworth Road or an away ground as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been a bit of outpouring of messages to him anyway. I've seen the interview that he did, and he seems that it went well. So hopefully it has, and we can see him at games and stuff.
Yep, I know you watch the podcast, Nick, so everyone's right behind you for a speedy recovery. Football. Well, before we get onto the game, Jimbo, got a new signing, didn't we? We had a little shiny new signing to look at. There was me in the last podcast, sort of asking for immediacy with signings and not leaving it to the last minute, and nothing was really doing on the old rumour mill front, which is good because that's how Luton used to conduct their business, and that's how I'd very much like Luton to conduct their business again, albeit those times might be behind us. But when Fabrizio Romano gives it the old here we go, you know something's cooking, and Emilio Lawrence arrived, officially announced on Friday morning. I think he was here on Thursday to join until the end of the season on loan from Manchester City, winger. Obviously, we saw him on Saturday. We'll come on to his performance in a minute. But it's a good sign that people are coming through the door early in the month of January.
It was what you wanted, isn't it? And I'd quite like to know a bit more about the rumour. I wouldn't mind at all. But it's good to get the ball rolling. Hopefully there's a few more coming, and it's like not all left to the last minute, which I thought it might be. And it could still be, but that's a good sign, I think, just for starters.
Yeah, obviously lots of transfer talk was happening at the pre-match press conference where Jack confirmed that they are looking at lots of angles and confident that there's going to be lots more ins and outs. over the course of the month. We'll come on to some outs a little later in the podcast. But yeah, first man through the door, Emilio Lawrence, winger. Lots of people messaged me asking, do we need a winger? Probably not. I think we went through the squad in the last review podcast that we did, and winger wasn't something that we said was immediately important. But if he's coming from Manchester City, there is a good likelihood that he's better than what we've got, and you should never not want to upgrade, even if it's a position that isn't necessarily of need. So I've no real problem with it. I'm fine with it. Does throw open the question of what happens to Cohen Bramall now, and we didn't really get the answer to that on Saturday. But in the main, I mean, you get one of the more talented youngsters in the country coming to play. Can't really turn your nose up at that.
No, well, it's what people wanted, wasn't it? In terms of Jack Wilshere using his contacts book to get people in. I think, from watching the game, I think it was probably a bit too soon to be throwing him in against that sort of opposition because, and this is throughout the whole Luton team for 45 minutes, maybe 50. Stevenage actually absolutely bullied Luton, and he probably didn't know what hit him really, because that was some baptism of fire into men's football, senior football, derby football, League One football, really. And you mentioned there what becomes of Cohen Bramall. Well, I think really Cohen Bramall showed that he's the man really still. So I think that he can play across the front three, Lawrence, so that there might be something there. But for me, Bramall's the man still.
Yeah, fair enough.
Did you see his flick as well?
Did
Oh, Romaldo.
Did I see his flick? I saw his flick. The Stevenage defender didn't see his flick, but I saw it. Absolutely, yeah, brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, let's bring it on to the game. Yeah, so Lawrence here until the end of the season on loan, and yeah, by the sounds of it, may well mean that Millie Ali is the full guy for that. Again, we'll come on to that a little later in the podcast. Lots of change. Lots of change. Can't remember the last time Luton made 7 changes between league games, but that was the case on Saturday. 7 changes to the starting lineup. I'm not going to go through all of them because I can't remember all of them. But obviously, the key ones was Lamine Fane was in from the start. I think we riot if that wasn't the case. Not necessarily his best 45 minutes, as I intimated in the instant reaction that I did, but it's always good to have him in there. Obviously, Nicky Wells was back. We knew that was going to happen. And Jack waxed lyrical about him in the pre-match press conference and spoke highly of his performance after the game, as he should do. We'll come on to that as well. Josh Keeley was back in goal. We knew that was going to happen. Obviously, Gideon Kadir came in. That was also big. Chris Makosso has woken from the dead as well. He was in the starting lineup. Mads Anderson was in. There's another one, Jimbo, but I can't for the life of me right now. Oh, and Lawrence was the 7th one, wasn't he? So, yeah, all change at the office. I didn't mind the team. Obviously, there was one person on it that I was not particularly inspired to see, but to be fair to Mads Anderson, he had a perfectly good game. They're the kind of kind of oppositions that you'd expect Mads Anderson to do the business against. It's the nippy buggers that you got to worry about. Well, there were no nippy buggers for Stevenage, where it was lump it up and chase after it.
I mean, you said that Mads had a perfectly good game. Oh, he had an outstanding game. Headed it, kicked it, did everything. Every time they chucked the ball in the box, boom, Mads Anderson.
Can tell you're a journalist with all this hyperbole that you come out with, Jimbo. No, he was perfectly good, and
It's not straying from that.
no, I'm not.
Just perfectly good.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen,
It was fantastic.
There are still the limitations to worry about, but
Yeah.
yesterday wasn't the day for his limitations.
Those didn't get exposed. Everything played to his strengths, and his strengths were very strong.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, I've never once said that if you stick the ball in the mixer, he's not going to head it away. Of course he is. That's not the problem, is it? The problem is following a man around and things like that. We know all about that anyway. We don't need to do that. It was a bit of a weird game, wasn't it? It was very much the game I expected it to be in the first half. I flagged it up in the preview. They commit something like the 3rd most fouls in League One. They're one of the most aggressive teams in League One. Nothing I saw in that first 45 minutes from Stevenage surprised me, not least because it was exactly what we saw at their place anyway. I can't believe it surprised any of our players, but we just couldn't get to grips with it. Any second ball that was there, we lost it. Any duel that was there, we didn't come out on the right side of it. And we couldn't really get anything going. I wouldn't say they got much going either. I mean, Keeley's made one save, hasn't he, as he's rushed out and flicked a ball over from Roberts. And they've missed a golden chance as well at a back stick that kind of got smuggled behind, but they weren't cutting us open at will or anything like that. I didn't sit there and think, crikey, we're about to concede, but at the same time, I was wondering where our goal was coming from up until a certain point.
I I was kind of a little bit worried because the pressure was on. I take your point that they weren't necessarily cutting us open, but the pressure was on all the time. Umpteen corners, they're some absolute giants, and our midfield were all very tiny. Um, Lamine aside, who offered a physical presence in there, but and that's why I think that, just to go back as well, that Mads Anderson's performance there was key, because that's all they had after we wrestled control of the game in the second half, to lump it into the box. And every time Mads Anderson said, "No, I'm having that," and headed it away. So I thought it was good in that respect. But it was very kind of dispiriting first half, because it just felt like um, a rerun, really, of that one at their place. And they camped out in our half, and we were calling for a first start that didn't come at all. I think we were probably in the 12th minute or something like that before we had our first shot. And yeah, it was very, very difficult half of football to watch, and for Luton to cope with. And, they get the penalty, which was a penalty. And I'm thinking, score this, and we've done something here against the run of play. The minute he missed it, I mean, I even tweeted it. You just got the sense at that point that that was the best chance to score, because nothing else was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the weekend, but I think he was blinded by the light that came off that bloody goalkeeper's shirt. I mean, what on earth was that all about? You don't need no lights in the dressing room where he's around, do you? You'd get a headache if you were sat next to him. Big lad as well, wasn't he? Goalkeeper.
Yeah, yeah, massive lad, and yeah, that penalty was not the one for that guy. I mean, it was for him, but not the one we wanted to see against that guy. And if Jordan Clark is going to be taking the the spot kicks from now on, and Wilshere intimated that he will be, then I don't think he can be doing that stuttering run up, because it's not just Jordan Clark. I saw it across the FA Cup games as well. People doing this stuttering run up. Bruno Guimaraes of Newcastle missed one as well. I don't think it offers anything. I think it gives the goalie a chance to see where you're going, and your momentum and your power is taken away by that stutter. And that's how it proved.
I mean, I said it in his Leighton Orient penalty. I have no problem with the starter, but the starter has to make the goalkeeper commit. And if the goalkeeper doesn't commit, then where do you go? You're in kind of no man's land, really, and he didn't commit. And the problem with today's penalty taking world is there's so much video out there. If you're the penalty taker at any club, a regular penalty taker at any club, you cannot have a one size fits all penalty. Yeah, you have your go to penalty, but the days of Alan Shearer sticking the same penalty away time after time after time, it's gone,
Well,
unless it is absolutely
yeah,
perfectly in the top bins. Well,
yes.
neither of Clark's ones have been. They've both been in that side, and anyone who watched that Leighton Orient penalty, they knew exactly where anyone in that ground knew exactly where that penalty was going, because the run-up was identical, the body shape was identical, everything about it was identical, other than the goalie this time got down and pushed it around the post, whereas last time he got down and it squirmed under him. There was no difference. If Jordan Clark is going to carry on taking our penalties, I'd question why it's not Kadir, because I might have mentioned this one or two times. He's the most composed finisher at this football club right now. But if Jordan Clark is going to carry on taking our penalties, he has to find many more penalties than just that one, because that's way too easy to scout. Even if you've not watched it on video, just on his run up, you know where he's going. He's got to learn give it the heave ho down the middle, or occasionally stick it to the other side. You've got to mix it up in today's world.
Unless you are Alan Shearer, to go back on your point, that the reason his spot kicks were all the same all the time was just direct and power and accuracy. And I maintain that even with that goalie, if you take that approach, it's going in, because he can't get down quick enough. He's too big. But the shot wasn't strong enough. The stuttering run gave him a chance to set. It's not for me, and I don't really like seeing it. I mean, we glossed over it the last time because it went in, didn't it? But only just.
I mean, Morris used to do it as well, didn't he? But Morris done it in a way that the goalkeeper would commit, and he had his eyes on the goalkeeper, and whichever way the goalkeeper's shaping to go, he would then just roll it in the other corner. Whereas Clark hasn't quite got that composure yet. I mean, listen, let's hope it's a problem that we have plenty more of. Let's hope we have plenty more penalties. We are the leading penalty. What would you call it? Achiever? I don't know if it's an achievement, but whatever it is, we are the team that's got the most penalties in League One, and let's hope that continues. Probably the only thing that referee got right all afternoon.
Oh,
Um,
he was a shocker.
yeah, he was not good. In a week where Stranger Things aired its final show on Netflix, we saw lots of Stranger Things in terms of decisions, Jimbo, because were we playing football or basketball? I could not work it out. I mean, if you've watched Deggy's video, he's done a handball counter on there and he's got up to 4, but I made it 6 myself. Then none of them got spotted. You love the cultural context of all of this, don't you?
I'm just thinking that you're at least 10 days late for a Stranger Things reference. That thing dropped on New Year's Day, mate.
Not when you're coming back from Exeter, it didn't. It drops when you finally get home and get a chance to watch it, pal.
Fair dues. Yeah, that's the streaming nature of it, I suppose. But uh, yeah, I mean, the one thing that was good about the referee was that he galvanised everybody against
Oh, he
him,
did.
and that it needed that because it was again quiet. Um, and I don't blame people for the quietness there because I was bored by the sideways and backwards stuff. No, you can't always not have sideways and backwards, but when it's constant and the people that are having the most touches are the centre backs, I'm not here for that at all. So that sort of stuff, I don't like, and it wasn't there in the second half, and there were good reasons why it wasn't there, and that's what I would rather see. Um, and it's not like the tactic of that, from what we've understood, Jack's description probably wouldn't work because they were playing very high Stevenage, and they were almost exclusively camped in a half in the first half. So, you know, drawing them out was not a problem. It's just that it was just so slow, and it was. I'm not in favour of that at all because any opposition can set back into a system to counteract that because it's so slow, and then the second half was not that, and they couldn't cope. And it just shows what you can do with those sorts of tactics.
Yeah, they cramped the pitch, didn't they? As Jimbo said, they defended high. They didn't attack particularly high, and a lot of the personnel were in the middle third of the pitch, and we couldn't really get any space or any freedom. Some of our passing was quite lax in that first half. Poor old Chris Makosso, you could tell he hasn't played football for a while. Every time he passed the ball in the first 20 minutes, it went to a Stevenage player rather than Luton one, and his next touch was having to go and get it back again. He grew into the game. The second half, he was really, really good. Alongside all of the defenders, actually. You'd like a crunching tackle, didn't you? Poor old Nige, he didn't miss. He did not miss.
The one he got booked for.
The one he got booked
Yeah.
for, yeah.
I mean,
Judging by their reaction, and Coco the clown, having left the circus, I was fully expecting a red card to come out there. I've not seen it back. It's not something that's on the highlights, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Although it was a win, it wasn't a game of football I'm rushing to watch the repeat of.
I did see it back in the press box before the referee reached into his pocket, so I was quite confident that it wasn't going to be a red card. It depends what generation you're from. I think for me, that it's not even a card. That it was a decent challenge. You're not allowed to make sliding tackles anymore. It seems half the time, and that's a frustration for people of our vintage because when one does go right, a la Ted and Mengi earlier in the season, Luton fans love it. I'd probably venture that most football fans love it. English football fans, anyway, love it. Yeah, studs weren't up. They made an absolute meal of it. I think it was never going to be a red, but the yellow probably came from this modern interpretation of tackling and a bit of the reaction as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Mengi there. I'd said that the rumour mill isn't in full swing yet. Well, there are plenty of rumours doing the rounds that he's off to Middlesbrough. We're led to believe he missed the game because of a muscle spasm. And, well, if you looked at the weather forecast, I think my muscles would have spasmed if I was going to go and play football in there. It was a bit for freezing to start off with, wasn't it?
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah, fair play to them for getting the game on, though. That has to be said. They got the loan of that tent shenanigans, because there were plenty of games in the division and in the FA Cup that got called off. So yeah, more of that would be good. It's rare. It feels like we haven't experienced a postponement for quite some time, because obviously in the Premier League everyone's got undersoil heating. I don't remember too many in the last couple of seasons of the Championship either.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Most of the teams in the Championship have been in the Premier League, and therefore they've got undersoil heating, haven't they? So, yeah, one of those, yeah, well done to everyone on getting it on, actually. And thankfully, the temperatures weren't quite as cold as they were forecast to be when we did the preview podcast. They were talking much colder than it actually was. Halftime came. Something needed to happen, didn't it? We couldn't get a foothold in the game. And to be fair to Jack, he's made a substitution immediately at halftime. Lamine Fanny's gone off. Shaden Morris has come on. Shaden Morris obviously gone on the right. Gideon Kadir's gone in the number 10 position. I've mentioned a few times how he could be useful for us through the middle. I mean, I've obviously said as an attacker, he basically is an attacker, isn't he, in that formation, because Wales comes so deep that he needs someone in front of him, as we saw for the winning goal. Uh, Not really a slight on Fanny, I don't think. It was just they had it well marshalled, and we just couldn't get no space. As I say, it was really condensed in that middle third of the pitch that we couldn't get no space. Actually, having Jordan Clark alongside Liam Walsh freed up Liam Walsh, and as we've said a few times on the podcast, once you free up Liam Walsh, good things are going to happen to Luton. We had to suffer, should I say, had to suffer bloody basketball again. I mean, how Reed's got away with the handball in the build up to their goal, I've no idea. I mean, it's like literally bounced off of his hand,
Well,
and it falls to him. It's none of this nonsense that it's gone to someone else like you hear in the Premier League. He's the one who's benefited
yeah,
from it. He's the one who puts the ball across. Unfortunately, it's flicked off Joe Johnson's head, I think, and then someone's run off of Gideon Kadir and headed it in the bottom corner. And at that point, knowing that this lot are masters of the time wasting and everything else that goes with it, and we haven't really clicked into gear, you're like, uh-oh.
yeah, very much so. Yeah, Jack Wilshere said actually in the press conference afterwards that he had a word with the officials, and there's something in there that if it apparently touches another body part first and then your hand, it's not deemed that way. They're making it too difficult if that's the case. That's too complicated. He handballed it. He got the advantage from that, and that they recycled it out. And you still have to defend that cross coming in, which they didn't do well enough. But yeah, like you, because we hadn't played well at all up until that point. And also, I must, I thought that didn't bode well for us at all. But then also looking back as well at the halftime substitute, my reaction to that was like, yeah, Lamine hasn't had his best game, but he was the only sort of muscle man, if you like, the enforcer that we had in the midfield at the point, and I was a bit worried. It turned out that I didn't have to be worried, because Liam Walsh was sticking his boot in and Clark was playing fantastic, and the decision to put Kadir in there, it seemed to be a masterstroke as well. I mean, you mentioned about him being striker, and I said I don't think that would ever happen. Actually, Jack did also hint in the press conference afterwards that the only place in there I haven't actually played him there is there, but he could. So you never know. But where he played there in the midfield, so much more effective. He was anonymous in the first half because Luton just couldn't get the ball out. But, both wide men were anonymous, Lawrence as well. Luton couldn't do anything. But with those three in the centre of the park, somehow that seemed to work. And against everything that I thought wouldn't. So I have to hold my hands up there and say fair play.
It'll come around to my way of thinking eventually, Jimbo, and we will see Kadir through the middle of again of that, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the first handball in the game either. They'd been doing it relentlessly throughout the game, and in hindsight, it was a good thing, really, wasn't it? Because it got the crowd's backs up. If there's one thing that Luton don't like, it's an injustice, and that was an injustice, allowing that handball to go. But we needed to equalise quickly. As I say, time wasting was going to start. It was going to be obvious, and obviously, you couldn't trust the referee to speed anyone up, because he didn't. I don't think he even knew what day of the week it was, let alone how to speed anyone up. But we did equalise quickly. Mentioned a few times, haven't I, how we've given soft free kicks away and paid the price for it. Well, Stevenage grabbed our beer and ran with that particular one. We got a free kick. Joe Johnson put a lovely ball in. It was in towards Mads and flighted over him, bounced off Makosso or the guy who was marking Makosso. Very much like the Reading goal, really, wasn't it? And then there's Clark all alone and, identical finish, just slams it in. And at 1-1, you're like, "Phew, well, at least the game's on our terms again, as opposed to their terms." And becoming quite a fox in the box is the standing skipper.
He is, yeah. 3 home games, so fair play to him on that front. And he's chipping in with the goals where other people aren't. Obviously, I just felt relief really because it felt like an injustice. Obviously, that's where the fiery reaction came from everybody because we were all seeing these handballs getting unpunished, and that was one of them. For them to go in front, I thought, well, at least that cancels that out, and we don't have to suffer that issue. I didn't really see at that point that we'd kick on as we did. And I'm glad I was wrong. I always like to be wrong in a nice way.
Yeah, absolutely. The other catalyst for the winning goal, of course, was Cohen Bramall came on the pitch between goals 1 and 2, stretched the play even further out. So now we've got Morris hogging one touchline, we've got Bramall hogging the other touchline. We've got Kadir with all the space in the middle, and Nicky Wells got a heck of a lot more space to come short and do what Nicky Wells does. And, once again, lots of people are asking about striker. I'll say it again, Nicky Wells is playing that striker role exactly how Jack wants him to play that striker role now.
I thought he was outstanding. I mean, people are criticising him for the goals, and that's a fair criticism of a striker because that's really what their main stock and trade is. But I thought he was outstanding in linking the play and making the space for other players to run into. I don't think Jordan Clark has that sort of space if he's not causing problems. So I think that you've got to look at it more in the round. We'd all like him to score goals. I'm sure he'd like himself to score some goals. But an assist is just as good in that context in that game because obviously it puts us in charge, and they, from their, they bullied us sometimes fairly, sometimes not fairly. A few very notable times not fairly. But then after that point, they shrunk and they had nothing, and it felt really good at that point because of those tactics and what we were experiencing. I've got no problem with them. Like that's, they're playing to their strengths. I don't like. It's not nice to see when you're on the receiving end of it, but it's nice to see that when a plan A fails, that we're not the only team that sometimes doesn't have a plan B.
No, that's right. Yes, very physical. In particular on Joe Johnson, weren't they? I don't quite know how the fellow who got him in a headlock and threw him into the dugout in the second half stayed on the pitch. He was already on a yellow card. I'm not suggesting it was necessarily a red card, but certainly a second yellow was well within his rights to come his way. It didn't. Yeah, you're right. I think the thing with Nicky Wells, as I've said, I've said it since he returned to the side at Reading. He is playing the striker role how Jack wants him to play the striker role. However, as Luton fans, we have grown up on a DNA of having a centre forward, a number 9 who wins every header in the box and scores lots of goals. You've got Mick Harford and Brian Steene, if you're of the vintage prior to me. Those that are of our generations would have grown up with Steve Howard doing this, and more recently, Danny Hilton, James Collins, Carlton Morris, if you're of a new brigade. This is a completely different striker and a completely different way of playing with the striker. And
it was a different formation as well. All those players largely played with a strike partner, so 2 strikers. Harford and Steen were the classic big man, little man, weren't they? And it worked so effectively back then. We're not playing 2 men up front now. We're playing a forward 3, which does require those men on the flanks to chip in with goals. You think Mo Salah is a winger, isn't he? But he's a record goal scorer.
Well, I always go back to Arsenal that Wilshere came through. Bukayo Saka is their greatest source of goals. You look at this Arsenal team that everyone's telling me is going to win the Premier League. I'm still not convinced they are, but everyone's telling me they are. How many goals has Gyökeres got? He hasn't got very many. How many goals has Saka got one side, Trossard and Martinelli when he's not kicking injured people off the pitch on the other side? they're the goal. And you chip in with your Declan Rice getting 5 or 6 from midfield or whatever, and that's exactly what Luton are doing. You know, Jordan Clark's getting the Declan Rice goals, Gideon Kadir's getting the Bukayo Saka goals. Obviously, we need to sort out someone to score on the left, and I suspect that's what Lawrence has come into the side for. But unless you've got an Erling Haaland up front, anyone really in the Premier League, it's the wide. You look down the list of top scorers in the Premier League these days. Even the season that we were in there. You've got Cole Palmer, who's usually up there. It's very rare. When we were in the Premier League, you had Son at Tottenham, who was up there. These are wide forwards. There are your source of goals now, and your number 9. And you'll be watching it during the summer, and you'll see this. If you're an England fan, you'll see our number 9 going deep, and that's why Morgan Rogers is in the England side and not Jude Bellingham to go the other way. And that is the modern way. And I think as fans, we've just got to appreciate that what Wells's role is from Jack Wilshere, and judge him on that rather than judge him on his goal output, which that's kind of old school football, really.
Well, it is. You know, I'm not saying you have to like it. I don't.
I don't know, me neither, but that
yeah.
is the situation that it is. You know, everyone wants us to sign a striker. We might sign a striker. He seemed to suggest in the pre-match press conference he's perfectly happy that Al Hamadi and Elijah are on their way back. And as I said, he stressed again that he's really, really, really enjoying working with Wales. We've just got to take it that Wales is performing the role that he is being asked to perform, whether we like it or whether we don't like it. And ultimately, if we win games of football, I've said this a few times in this podcast, don't care if the goalkeeper scores the goals, as long as we score more goals than what they do. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't care less how it gets in. They can score for us for all I care. And he's involved in an awful lot of goals, Nicky Wells. All 3 of the goals that we scored here against Leyton Orient, he was involved in some way, shape or form. He was involved in the winning goal, which we may as well come on to now, hadn't we? Because when we went 1-1 and Bramwell came on the pitch, our press suddenly went up a level, or probably up 2 levels. I mentioned that their press was good in the preview podcast, and for the first hour it was. It fizzled out after that, thankfully. We come alive, didn't we? Kadir wins the ball in the middle of the park. It ricochets to Morris, who gives the ball to Nicky Wells, who has come short. And as I said in the instant reaction, he had a world of different options available to him. He could have gone with Bramwell down the left. He could have shot himself. If he was a genuine striker like Luton fans think he is, he would have shot himself, because that's what strikers have got to do. But no, he rolled Kadir in. Lovely finish. Used the defender a treat. I mean, you love the finish, don't you? You do. And 2-1.
I think I'm in love with this finish. I mean, I cannot.
You're in love with this geezer, aren't you? You've been the president of his fan club since the guy walked through the door.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's absolutely mustard in front of goal. I mean, I think you mentioned it, or I might be paraphrasing, that he doesn't miss, but
not in those positions. He doesn't, does he?
No.
Once the ball is in his path and he's only got to finish it. I think back to the winner against Forest Green, pretty much an identical goal, albeit he used a different foot this time round. Once he sees the wires of the goalposts and the ball is there to be put ahead, he doesn't slash at it. He doesn't scuff it. He just passes it into the back of the net. That's what Brian Stein used to do. Just pass the ball in the net.
It's an absolutely sublime finish, and the actual TV replays that we've seen of it don't do it justice. If you're in the main stand in the enclosure, the way he does use that defender as a shield and just passes it, no slashing at it. He knows exactly where they're going. The keeper can't see it. And I was right behind it. I saw the curve of the ball, and it felt like it took a million years to go in. And every single second and century of that journey, I was rising up from my seat going, yes, because I knew it was going. It's one of the best finishes that I've seen. And mostly they're all Kadir finishes this season. He's absolutely managing his own one-man goal of the season competition, and that is another one to add into the oeuvre. French, that.
I didn't think it was English, that's for sure, yeah. No, well, listen, he's getting better by the game, isn't he, Gideon Kadir? And, you know, shout out to Shader Morris as well, because, you know, he's got lots of pace, hasn't he? But he started that move off in the right fashion with the ball to Nicky Wells, and yeah, it was just poetry in motion, wasn't it? It was exactly how Jack wants us to play: win the ball high, have plenty of attacking runners, have the striker linking up with the wingers, and the wingers putting the ball in the back of the net. If I suspect if we went and watched training, that goal's seen quite an awful lot on the training
I
ground.
was going to say, I think that that's us now. And, if you're, down on not seeing a traditional number nine, then, that's changed. We've just explained that front three. But I think that winning the ball back high, and you told us stats wise in the previous preview podcast that we are the number one team for doing that in the final third. And that's us now. That's our way of scoring. That's one of our main weapons. And to do that in that game and win from it just shows you how important that is.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Absolutely. And Morris makes such a difference down that side there, doesn't he? I mean,
Magic.
the amount of fullbacks that still think they're going to get back to him. I mean, dream on, lads. You are not getting back to him. The only criticism you have then is that whoever it is in the middle doesn't make their way to the near post because he's beaten the guy. Just give him someone at the near post to put the ball to
Yeah.
and score. He's been here, 3 months now, 4 months, and every single
I
time.
clocked that that's what he wants to do on his
Yeah.
debut, really. So I think, that is a frustration.
But if you're the man in the middle, you've not even got to guess if he beats the man.
No.
There hasn't been a man so far who hasn't stopped him.
There's one occasion in his Luton career I've seen a player stop him, and he was almost like affronted by it because I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah.
This doesn't usually happen.
Absolutely. Apart from doubling up on him, and teams have got to be close enough to him to double up on him. No stopping him. Yeah, that's the only thing I'd say. But that'll come. He's still relatively new in terms of being in the first team, isn't he? And yeah, great option off the bench. I guess the only downside to the afternoon, not downside to the afternoon, the only sort of unfortunate thing was that Jerry Yates didn't score. And I know that there's lots of people, I had no confidence in him scoring, blah, blah, blah. He should have chipped in, blah, blah, blah. I mean, crikey, he'd have had to have orbited the sun to get it over his head and down again, wouldn't he? And there wasn't no sun out, so he was struggling. But to be honest, I thought he hit it well. Goalkeeper just left his leg there and saved it, Could he have gone round him? Probably. But this is an unconfident striker, isn't it? Who was so desperate to score, he hit it as hard as he bloody could. And unfortunately, the keeper's leg was just left there.
Yeah, I mean, he's hit it at him, so the goalkeeper doesn't really have to do anything. But
To be fair, it's hard not to hit it at him, Jimbo. He's about 5 foot wide and 10 foot high.
He was giant. But yeah, you'd like a bit more finesse there. But ultimately, if you've not even been playing to get the chances, and we spoke about this previously, that he hasn't even been getting the chances. The one that still sticks in my mind is the one where Brown played a ball behind him, and it was a simple tap in, and that he needs one of those probably to go in to kickstart something. But then he's not getting the run of games anyway. He will have to be the second man, really, coming on once Wells has run himself ragged for 60, 70 minutes, because as we've just explained, the way that we're lining up with the attacking three at the front. So that's just the way it's going to be. And unfortunately for him, he probably needed that one to go in, because you're thinking, well, when's the next one going to come along? And I'm not sure.
Yeah, indeed. Tuesday night would probably be an option for that. We'll come on to that in a moment. The one thing that centre forward has to do, whether he's coming short, whether he's going in behind, however he's playing, whoever it is, he has to work hard. And to be fair to Yates, the first thing he did was chase a fella all the way back to our own left corner flag and make sure that we got a goal kick out of it. So work rate, it's there. Would we have liked him to finish? Of course, we'd liked him to have finished. 3-1 makes injury time a whole lot easier. Not that they even threatened in injury time. We managed that game, well, about as well as they managed games, actually, to be fair, without the time wasted on top. And
Because of Matt Anderson.
and everything was good from there. It's a team effort, Jimbo. It was. We had the luxury of bringing Savile on for injury time and shoring it up, and yeah, it was good. And I was sort of sitting there in the car on the way home, and I'm kind of thinking, maybe I've been a bit guilty here of not giving a lot of credit, because we've been in this run recently. Well, to be fair, we ain't had no time to think about any games anyway, because once the first one's finished, the next one's on you. But we've been in a run, haven't we, where positive things have been truncated immediately by disappointing performances.
Mm-hmm.
But that's 10 unbeaten at home now in all competitions, 7 if you only want to include the league. And I get that the Port Vale game was really, 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 really disappointing in all of that. But 7 games unbeaten at home from where we've been in the last 18 months, that deserves recognition. But I think where we were at the start of that 7-game run and all of the criticisms that we had of this side, it's got no character. It's got no sort of bounce back ability. It's got no fight about it. You can't level them at it now. It's got character. We've been behind 3 times, I think, in this run and got results. This is the first time since Cardiff away that we've come from behind to win a game of football. But obviously we were behind against Bolton and Port Vale, and we come back to level both games. So we're showing some character now. So now that we've kind of actually got a week where all we've got is a midweek game and we can actually reflect on where we are and, they deserve an awful lot of credit for installing that because they've not had much time to do it on the training ground because they've been here, there and everywhere.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that I've been guilty of missing that as well because of those, 2 steps forward, 1 step
Mm.
back. That was the nature of it, and we're all focused on the step back because we see progress and then this regression, and when it's a regression as bad as, say, the Exeter game, um, we don't even have a shot on target, then you focus on that a bit too much, and I think we're probably all guilty of that because of the run that we've been on for 2 years, but to see those numbers at home, I think you've got to give us. I think we should. I think we should whisper it. We should whisper it that I think Kenilworth Road might be becoming a fortress again. Shh.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right to whisper that, and hopefully we can talk about it getting louder and louder and louder as we go. I mean, when you think that we couldn't even score a goal under Bloomfield at home for so long, quite how he's landed up a division, I don't know, but that blows my tiny mind. That does. But um, where we are now, that's 9 goals in 3 league games at home. 11 if you include the Port Vale one prior to that, and a whole host of chances either around that. Not necessarily yesterday. I think we scored apart from the Yates one, we scored our 2 main chances. Obviously, the penalty aside, um, you need decisions in your favour to get those. Now, it looks like we've cracked that. Yes, we've got an awful lot of work to do away from home. And like you say, that's generally where the disappointment in this run has been. Leighton Orient was terrible, but we got a point, and we probably should have celebrated the point a little bit more than what we did, but the performance was so bad. Reading, I had no problem with, just the defensive errors. Exeter is just an absolute abomination. That was the word I'm trying to look for. We put that down to the team sheet. Hopefully we don't see that particular team sheet again. But at home now, teams that get promoted on their home form, don't they? They don't get promoted on winning 20 out of 23 away from home. Take care of business at home. That old cliche, you win your home games, you draw your away games, you're going to be a promotion side. Well, now all of a sudden we've latched on to the playoffs again. We were 4 points behind, we're now 1 point behind. Peterborough did us a bit of a favour yesterday beating Bolton. I think Huddersfield lost to Stockport. Got a massive few weeks coming up. I think our next 3 Saturdays, no, our next 3 weeks we've got teams that are above us. So obviously next Saturday we've got Lincoln, then we go to Plymouth, then the following Tuesday we've got Huddersfield, and then the week Saturday after that Bradford come here. So the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks are big, and then the fixtures kind of level out after Cardiff away again. If we can come through this next 5 weeks with a decent points haul, and thankfully Lincoln's at home, Bradford's at home, Blackpool at home in the middle of all of that, we might be there or thereabouts again.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the hope, and I think that also the first half, as bad as it was to experience against Stevenage, showed you that when a team who were above us, let's have it right, and they were as high as first and second for a while this season, they were turning the screw without really having cutting through us, admittedly, but we were camped in our half, and it was all them at our patch. I think that shows you when those teams come, we can ride out a bit of adversity, hopefully, because I think it will happen. It will come,
Oh, of course, yeah.
but yeah, and then you can just spring to life. And it was only really a sort of 20-minute period of springing into life. And even though overall the second half was much more enjoyable to watch from a comfort perspective, it was really only that 20-minute burst where we absolutely ripped into them, and they were running all over the shop, didn't know what to do. You know, Morris was twisting people's blood. That Freestone that scored the goal, he had to resort to yanking him back by his collar at one point, and he was one of the key proponents of the dark arts that was getting away with it. So yeah, I think that it does show some good signs about what we can expect in the next few games. But I think that the reaction as well felt a bit like the old Kenilworth Road, and I take it that it took everybody being aggro against the referee, but so what? I'll take that, and sometimes that's when it has been the best, when we've had a common foe to rally against. So, I think that people are rightly stung by a large period of poor performances and poor results and relegations, but you look at those numbers that we've only lost that Mansfield game, Wilshere's first game in charge, since he got it at home. That's pretty good.
I know, it's very good. And in amongst all of that, we've been asked different questions. There've been the odd game that we've dominated from the start, the Wickhams that were never up to much at all. But we've been asked different questions and we've problem solved. Whereas in the past, when we've been asked different questions, we've run out of ideas before we even got the question posed to us, And like yesterday, it wasn't going places. And I'm going to give Jack huge props for that substitution because it would have been so easy to bring Savile on for Fanny and try and match their physicality. I think Savile puts himself about a little bit more, puts himself about more than all of the others. But that would have shackled Walsh absolutely completely then, even more so than he was. But no, he brings an attacker on. He spreads the game. He takes a risk. It is a risk if you bring an attacker on for a midfielder. But we're at home. The onus is on us to go and win the game. Particularly as we said in the preview that if we lost the game, we were needing snookers to catch up with them. And he's gone and won the game. And that is exactly what I want from my manager. I want my manager to sit there on the sidelines. Well, actually, I want my manager to not have the problems posed to him. I'd love us to win 5-0 every week,
Of
but I'm a
course, yeah.
realist. That's not going to happen. So when we are on the side, when we've got a manager on the sidelines and he's seeing what's going on and everything, he doesn't wait till 60 or 65 minutes before changing it. And let's see how you can do in the second half and all this. If there's a problem there and it needs solving, he solves it at half time. That's the second time that he's made substitutions at half time that have impacted a game of football positively to us, or slightly after half time at Leyton Orient when he brought Jordan Clark on. But that is a good sign. And it's a guy who knows the game of football, which we knew anyway. You only had to look at his playing record. But it tells me that it's an upgrade on his predecessor. Look, that's nothing against Matt Bloomfield, but he was not doing that. He would not make a halftime substitution. He didn't really make many positive substitutions. It was like your position, you're coming off, you're going back into the same position. It was like for like an awful lot of the time. Can't really think of him making a positive sub that I thought, cool, that's changed the game. And he was here for 10 months. So it is all progress. Listen, away from home, we are massively short of the mark.
Mhm.
I think we've one win in 6 away from home. So we've got to work on that. Uh, but in terms of the home form, and how many times have we sat in front of these cameras and people have, and we've referenced that people have been bored with the home performances? I had been, plenty have been. Now, even if it is only half an hour, now there's something to get behind at home, and we're building up ahead of steam. Saturday's going to be brilliant because they're a really good side, Lincoln. It's going to be a good game of football, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. But I feel now that we're starting to progress as a team, and it helps that some of the players that were out of form aren't in the team. Let's be honest. Cal Naismith was out of form. We've now got a guy who's in mustard form at left back. Forget the fact of the ages or anything like that, but that is the case. Nicky Wells has come back. Jordan Clark have come back, and this all helps. And all the players that we've got to come back will help indeed. But all of a sudden, you can look at the last 21 games and you think the reason to be optimistic. I'm not saying that everything's hunky dory, but if we continue on the same progression and the same trajectory of improvement, he's ticked off the home box. He's not stupid. He'll know that we've got to be better away from home, and he'll put plans in place. He can put that to bed for 10 days before we go to, or 2 weeks before we go to Plymouth, and just concentrate on these 2 home games coming up. But if he can sort that as well, aye.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the possibility at the moment, isn't it? Rather than it coming, we haven't really experienced it all yet, but the possibility is there before us. And you want hope, don't you? You want that in
And we've
football.
said all along as well, haven't we, that you want to see what we're trying to do. Couldn't see it under Bloomfield. I just couldn't see it. But
The thing that you mentioned there, that I now feel more confident to say that this is actually happening because I've seen it, is risk. I think that you could probably say he was too safe early in his tenure, and that's probably to be understandable because he's a new manager and stuff like that. But I think that you have to, in this modern game, take these risks to try and change it, because we're not, fans aren't stupid. They can see it's not going right. Just say, oh, we're going to carry on this way of playing that isn't particularly working just because traditionally we don't make substitutes till 60 minutes. It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. We could all see that it wasn't quite working. And luckily we hadn't been stung by a goal by Stevenage, but the risk to change that. And I've already said, I thought at the time, not sure about that. I don't think you should take me Fanny off there. We're going to get absolutely pulverised here. And we didn't. So I'm wrong, and that's fine. The risk to do that paid off. And I think that will give him confidence to do it again and again and again, to the point that we get to a manager that knows the exact moment every time to really make a change somewhere, and which players can make that change, which he probably needed this time, 3 months, 2 months, whatever it has been, to find out those players that will make the change and make the difference. And there's certainly lots of players that haven't. And like you said, some of them aren't playing at the moment, so maybe that makes a difference.
yeah, I think it does, doesn't it? Because you look at the players in these 3 home games, they're largely the same players that have done the business for us, haven't they? Liam Walsh has been fantastic in the times that he was on the pitch in those games. Jordan Clark scored in all 3 of those games. Gideon Kadir scored in all 3 of those games, and Shaden Morris probably would have scored if he'd needed to, if he was put in the position to score as well. There's 4 players that are really impacting for us. And as I've mentioned, Nicky Wells is playing the role that he's being given to play. Not, whether it's the role that you want him to play or not, it's the role that he's being given to play. He's playing it very, very well. Fanny's obviously bringing the best out of Liam Walsh as well. Joe Johnson. Let's talk about Joe Johnson, because fourth game in succession. I mentioned it in the instant reaction. Senior players have got to wait their turn whilst this kid's playing like he is. This has got shades of Dan Potts getting injured the last time we were in League One, and a superstar coming to the boil all over it, Jimbo.
Same initials as well, JJ. Well, I really hope so, because I loved watching him and Stacey play association football. It was absolutely fantastic. And I think that he's really impressed me in these 4 games in the way that he seems to have grown up. I felt that he was quite boyish before, and now he feels like he can really mix it up. He can play football as well, but he can tussle as well. He got absolutely assaulted, I think, by Roberts. Was it Roberts or
He
Reed?
was, yeah,
I
yeah.
forget, the 2 of them mix up their names. But, he got stamped on the back, which I'm not altogether certain was entirely accidental. I don't, if it was, fair play, but,
One of those he knows what he's doing sort of
yes, it
thing,
left
yeah.
a bit on him. It felt a bit like, and then he got booked as well for not something to do with Johnson, but he should have been on, he should have been on, well, he would have been on caution, so he should have been taking the caution. But then he's wrestling him, and they're having a right tussle, but he's standing up to that. And I think that, 6 months to a year ago, he'd have got completely owned by him there. That was the whole point of him singling out Johnson, I think. And maybe Roberts made the mistake as well of thinking that he's the young kid that I can do this to. And I don't think you can now. And I think that there's just a whole new complexion to what we're seeing from JJ. That's just in the battling stakes, which you've got to do to try and have a platform. But then you give him the ball as well, as we saw with the cross for the equaliser. He's got quality as well. I really like what we see him, and he's a left back. So play him as a left back and not a left wing back, which we had seen too many times as well, and see what you get. You get a great left back performance, or 4 of them now. Really impressive.
Yeah, he's a square peg in a square hole, isn't he? And yeah, I really like it. If you'd read the team sheet bottom to top and you saw Lawrence in the side, you probably would have expected Bramwell to be left back, just on experience grounds and the fact that Bramwell's bloody good. So one, it says volumes that JJ stayed in the side, and I think the reason why he stayed in the side is he plays the dual role of that left back brilliantly because he steps into the centre of midfield. He releases Fanny in the first half, Clark in the second half. How many times did Clark pick the ball up on the left wing in that second half with oceans of space in front of him? And he could either drive into that space or he could send Bramwell down the line or he could put the ball into Wells or anything like that. You can't do that if you haven't got your left back stepping in and effectively being Clark there whilst Clark goes out and does his roaming thing, or Fanny when it is it's Fanny on the pitch. I mentioned this when we first started about talking about this back four, double pivot, link and all of that. He does it brilliantly, and now I love Bramwell to bits, but that's not Bramwell's game. You know, you don't want Bramwell there anyway. You want Bramwell stretching the play, going down the wings. So,
Bramall is my left wing now.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, he come as a left back.
Yeah.
He's now a left winger.
I mean, if you play
as far
Football
as I'm concerned.
Manager, you just take away the left back bit from his position now, and you've just got left wing, haven't
And
you?
it fits so well. I mean, have JJ there as a left back, have Bramall as the left wing. They worked fantastically well when they both came on, to the extent that it wasn't happening in the first half. It wasn't all down to them. The whole play, the way that we were set up in that first half, was stifling. But once Bramall came on, it was all go on both flanks, and they couldn't handle it. Yeah, that's why I say that I was surprised to see Lawrence over Bramall for the start, and now I think that I would think it would be very difficult for me personally for Lawrence to oust Bramall. I think he'll have to watch what Bramall does and try and learn from Bramall, because he's direct, he is pacey, but he is also he's a man, he's a footballer, he's strong. Whereas Lawrence is going to have to learn that from what I've seen. He probably doesn't get the physicality that he's had in under 21 football. And I saw a lot of actually young Manchester City players play in that FA Cup game against Exeter where they beat him 10-1. A lot of them looked slight like he did. Maybe that's the difference, or part of the difference to stepping up, that you're going to have to bulk up a bit.
Well, that's why these academy teams never win a game in the trophy, isn't it? And they're playing League One and League Two teams in that.
In fact, I think Pep, I saw a thing, I don't know if he said it this week, but Pep was talking about the academy players.
Post-match after the Exeter game, he said it.
Was it after that? Yeah, okay. So technically, they've got it. They can do all that, but then you come up against a man who wants to steamroller you, and you've got to be able to stand up to that, which is why I think now JJ has got that. And I think that's something that Lawrence would have to learn, and learn quick, particularly in this league.
Someone else who's got it is Chris Makosso. Been calling for him to play for a while. Okay, he's come in because of injury to Mengi. 20 minutes or so, he was Stevenage's best player, but second half he was very, very good, and he looked terrible on the ball in the first half, but he looked really good on the ball in the second half. There was that one where he drove into their half, and as always, all the Luton fans shouted "shoot" as the ball come to him. He's adopted the marvellous Nakamba "man's not here to shoot" mantra, but he's I still maintain he's our best defender. He's a brilliant defender. I mean, if Mengi's fit, stays, leads us to wherever, him and Mengi, you are not beating that very often. You're just not. They've got pace, they've got power, they've got aggression. Okay, Makosso can sometimes be found wanting positionally, but that's why he's got the pace to make up for it. And they'd be fantastic together. But it's nice having Makosso back. I'm glad he's back involved. I'm glad he's involved in the mix again, because he's a talented boy, and you don't want talent to disappear.
No, and he was one of the bright spots of last season as well, from the Watford game onward, the Watford second half onwards.
Who did he replace in that game, Jimbo?
My best mate.
Let's hope that that's a permanent thing. But
no, I mean,
he resonates with the crowd as well, doesn't he?
He does. That. I can only imagine, and maybe something to ask really. That I think that the ball playing aspect might have knocked him down the pecking order slightly while Wilshere's here, but that his defensive work is something that you can't argue with. So if he can improve that part of it, and I take that he was rusty as well.
Yeah,
not played for
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
long that,
Yeah.
his passes were going awry in the first half, but he improved as well in the second half. You had to give him that as well. So, yeah, good to have him back. And, you know, one thing we're not short of as defenders, are we? So if one happens to leave in this window, then I'm not overly concerned.
No, you and me both. Decent afternoon at the office, all told, really. Yes, it took a while to get going. I was going to say it took a while to warm up. In terms of temperatures, it never really did it? But yeah, no, it's good. There was lots of chats in the comments about our fruit chat in the last review podcast. So it was kind of good that Stevenage ended up being the gooseberries, really, wasn't it? We take that.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I haven't heard anyone mention it as well. And maybe I've just missed it, but it's revenge as well, isn't it?
And these revenge missions, they come in thick and fast, aren't they? Because we've got another absolute shocker of a away performance to put right next Saturday. And then Plymouth, who's absolute shocker of a home performance to put right the following Saturday. So these revenge missions, they come in thick and fast.
Yeah, but if that acts as a catalyst for all of us, that it seemed to against Stevenage, albeit that the actual spark was the referee, but um, I think we're best, aren't we, when we're A, the underdogs, or B, have something to rally against.
Yeah, it's that injustice, isn't it? I mean, if you're in the main stand and you look to your left, you see the biggest injustice of all. I mean, it's behind me on this camera if you're watching on YouTube, and that will never be forgotten. But whatever the injustice is, whether it's someone handballing it in the build-up, someone punching the ball in the back of the net, someone, getting away with murder, or whatever it is, there is always, or even a player like celebrating in front of us that we don't take too kindly to, whatever it is. Or if it's, Ahmad diving in the playoffs or whatever it is, once the Luton fans got their backs up, well, you don't want to poke the bear, do you? And
Yeah.
once we've been poked, we come out fighting.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering, I'm just thinking on the fly now, while you're saying that, it evoked a memory, a thought that maybe this position of us being the so-called big boys that have come from the Premier League in League One should be going straight back up. I think we all kind of know that doesn't suit us. We are the best when we are the, the David versus the Goliath, aren't we? And when the narrative changes to force us to be the Goliath, it hasn't sat well. And maybe we all collectively haven't quite been able to cope with that. But when you get this sort of situation, it feels a bit more like home, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to look back at the conference, haven't you? It took us 5 years to get out of it because it took us 5 years to get our heads around it, and maybe one or two teams to suddenly think that we're not the sort of Goliaths that we were. And when we did, hey presto, we got out of it. Let's hope that Jack is changing the narrative. He's certainly changing the quality of football. Would we like that football to be played for 90 minutes every single week? Yes, we would. Find a schedule that doesn't involve 46 games of football and you might get it. And that's one of the reasons why the Premier League is of a higher level than the EFL is they play 8 less games. Listen, I'm as up with everyone else that are the professional athletes, blah, 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 but they're also human beings. And that is kind of how it is. But yeah, no, at home, the ball is starting to roll nicely, isn't it? 10 unbeaten in all competitions. Again, if you want to take out the trophy in the FA Cup games, 7 unbeaten in the league. Starting to get up ahead of steam. We've got another home game. Hopefully we can build on that. And obviously if we can get 3 points there, that's a marker opportunity to put out. And who knows where we go from here. And then we'll worry about the away games when they come along. Correct scores, Jimbo. Not for me, unfortunately. I was never in the races. It never went 1-0 to Luton, but plenty of you went 2-1 to Luton out there. This might take a while, Jimbo. So we've got 99 Slacy, Greg Bastiani, Fleety 1885, Scotty Pip 1976, Martin F, Tom Mollett 300, Chris McKnight 7164. I'll give you a shout out, even though you told me it's a derby. Not a derby, Chris. It's not a derby. Rev DM Brown and Highland Hatter, you all said 2-1. You'll all get 3 points. My leaderboard, which will be on your screen for the preview to the Lincoln game, which will come up later in the week. Just before we go, we will be at Kenilworth Road on Tuesday night for the Vertu Trophy round of 16 game. round of 16 area quarterfinal, whatever they want to call it these days, against Swindon Town. You're obviously looking forward to seeing Mr. Holloway. He's mad as a box of frogs at the best of times. I'm sure that'll be the case on Tuesday. Ollie Palmer returns from our conference days to hopefully not haunt us. Are we at the stage of the competition now, Jimbo, where we take it seriously?
Well, I like to think so. There's a really great opportunity here to get to Wembley, and
3 wins from Wembley now.
exactly for Jack to do that in his first season would be a lovely feather in his cap and a great day out for us. I certainly enjoyed the last time we got to the final.
Wasn't
I
bad, was
really,
it?
really enjoyed it.
It wasn't bad. Absolutely.
Um,
That
so
number that was in the Luton end that day, it goes up 1,000 a year, you know.
yeah,
I think in about 10 years' time, we're gonna have had more Luton fans at Wembley than actually Wembley
yeah,
holds.
more and more people
Yeah,
that say, "Oh, I was there.
yeah,
When were you born?"
yeah, exactly, yeah, and that's 115,000 Luton fans that were in a 90,000 stadium, but I'm sure it worked in some way, shape, or form. Do we go stronger then?
Well, I kind of think we have to on the merit of Swindon. They're really doing well in League Two,
They
and
are.
I don't think that we can take that lightly at all. You know, you can see what confidence does, and if they're on their uppers, then I don't think we can take that lightly. That being said, it would be nice to see one or two youngsters in there, as it's a good breeding ground for that. But I think that once you get closer and closer, I mean, Jack was asked this in the press conference actually, and he said something he has to basically consider really, because they've done so well to get this far with those young players, and certainly that squad against Exeter was lovely to see, and we tore them apart really.
Some of their young players have gone out on loan, haven't they? So that will kind of take
True.
them out of the equation.
That yes, true. There's been quite a lot of activity in the academy.
I guess the ones that you're kind of looking at here, and you asked about Millie Ali, you've put a write up on the Lutonian about what Jack said directly about Millie Ali and why he's not been in the team and where his future could lie. I guess, does he get a game here because he shone in the last trophy game against Exeter? He was one of the men of the match, obviously. Lassinodos won't be spearheading the line. Think you've asked about a couple of returning players. Jake Richards too soon. Don't know. Was there any questions about Al Hamadi?
Yeah, he's not going to be ready yet.
So we're looking at Jerry Yates leading the line then, I suspect. Which would be good. He's led the line in the trophy and scored against, who did we play in the first? Barnet in the first game of it.
Mhm.
So that's fine. Presumably we're going to see Zach Nelson. I wonder if we see Marvellous Nakamba. We've heard lots about how he's available back from AFCON. Never in a month of Sundays is he playing a League One game anytime soon, but this will give us a chance to rest a few players in the centre of the park. George Saville, does he get a run out in this now that he's dropped out of first team contention or immediate starting contention? That would be an interesting thing. Does Makosso get another game at the back? Rue Waters, does he come in at right back? He's got lots. I mean, even if he does make wholesale changes, he's got a lot of players that you look at there who were starters in the first team when this competition started, who suddenly no longer starters in the first team, and you think, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to keep some of them sweet, hasn't he? And it's interesting because I did ask specifically about Miliali, and you can read that piece on the Lutonian.com about his future, in terms of whether he's going to play, regardless of whether his future is a loan or a transfer away. And Jack Wilshere was talking that he's going to have to assess it because Cohen Bramwell only got the 30 minutes, 35 minutes against Stevenage, so that would suggest to me that he might get more of a run out. I think it's clear to see really that he's Miliali is well out of favour at the moment, and what happens, what will happen. But there are plenty of other players that aren't getting game time as well, and I think that it's yeah, it's whether that you play those and trust them, and I think to a certain degree you kind of have to, but it would make me less confident about the outcome against a confident Swindon side. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing I would say is we are playing our toughest opposition in this competition
Mm.
You know, um, for all that Exeter are in the division above Swindon, it wasn't Exeter's first team, and what are they, fifth from bottom, fourth from bottom, just been ruthlessly exposed by the champions in the FA Cup. I think Swindon will be better than Exeter. I expect they. Listen, if they're not, then happy days, because I think we'll beat them whoever we play. But I think we've got to prepare for this to be our hardest. And actually, we're at the stage of the competition now where the opposition should get stronger in terms of the amount of first teamers they pick, and also how up for it they are. I mean, everyone goes into this competition in the group stages, and you kind of got a mindset that, well, if we come out of the groups, we'll assess it then. But the group thing is kind of an inconvenience, really. I think this competition took a nosedive when it stopped being straight knockout anyway, regardless of under 21 teams and everything else. No one, there's just too much football without 3 group games. But as I said a minute ago, we're 3 wins from Wembley.
Yeah, I'd like to go as strong as possible, acknowledging that it won't be as strong as possible, if
Mm.
if you get what I mean. But there's certainly some players there that need to come in and prove themselves, don't they? If they want to stand a chance of getting into that
Well,
side.
that's it, isn't it? That's what Joe Johnson did in those 2 cup games against Exeter and against Fleetwood. He played really, really well. And when the chance came after Naismith's injury, we all expected Bramwell to be left back. It wasn't. It was Joe Johnson, wasn't it? Joe Johnson played in the Wickham game and has kept his place from there. Now, whether he keeps his place on Tuesday night or we find someone else to play left back, which ironically could be Bramwell, and then he could play a winger in front of him, remains to be seen. But I really hope we win now. We're at that stage of the competition now where my interests have picked up a bit. You know, that's not to say that it wasn't anyway. I was at Cambridge on that fateful night where it was dreadful. Uh, and we're also at that stage of the competition now where if we go all the way, we're only adding 3 fixtures to our schedule. It's not going to kill us without the FA Cup. That was a damp squib. We didn't really have much of a run in the Carabao Cup, so it's not too bad. And these players ultimately that aren't playing, and hopefully we're in a position now where the fixtures are starting to ease up a little bit in the league. We're going to have our starting 11 and rat-a-tat-tat-tat rather than all this rested nonsense that we had over Christmas. That might be their only time to get themselves in. So they then become more motivated. And who knows, it didn't do Birmingham no harm last season. They got promoted and got to the final of this competition. So you can do both. And we might not have the financial clout on our squad that Birmingham had, but in terms of numbers of use to us, we can't be too dissimilar to Birmingham. So let's go for it.
Yeah, my sentiments exactly. I want this run to continue as well. I think that it's important it does because it is 10 games over all competitions.
Mm.
So it's important that we maintain this home form that feels like we're getting back to a place where we can feel like home is where the heart is. And I don't think that if you get rolled over by Swindon, that necessarily continues. It might do, in a league context, and it's 7 games in the league, but I prefer the double figures there of 10, and I'd like to make it 11 and rattle on to Lincoln.
Yeah, if you want to win a mentality, you can't pick and choose when you win. You got to win every game that's in front of you. I will caveat it that if Plymouth win and we end up away to Plymouth in the next round, I'd quite happily get knocked out this round. But unfortunately, they don't do the draw beforehand, so that you know what's coming along. So come on, Bristol Rovers, Tom, and everyone down there, get them knocked out, and let's keep any potential travelling in the next round to a minimum.
He's playing in midfield at the moment. We'll see a team lineup for Bristol Rovers.
Franz
Have you seen that one?
Beckenbauer, isn't he?
Fair play.
Is he?
I don't know.
No, his flash scores shows that he's in midfield. I've
Yeah.
not. It'd be interesting.
I've not watched the Bristol Rovers game to find out, but if you have, let us know.
Well, let's hope we win, they win, and never the twain shall meet.
Yeah. Well,
And then we'll find out, won't we? So, yeah, no, that was good. Yeah, positive afternoon yesterday. 3 points in the bag, 1 point off the playoffs now. It's, things are starting to slowly move in the right direction, particularly at Kenilworth Road. And let's hope that continues on Tuesday night. No score predictions for the Tuesday night game. If we get to the semi-finals of this competition, then we'll do a full preview podcast and everything else around it, because we're away from midweek league matches. Then obviously we've got a midweek league game later in this month, so there are plenty of podcasts coming out to you and things like that. We will reflect on what happens on Tuesday night when we cover the Lincoln game in the review of that one. We're going to record the preview for that prior to Tuesday night so that we can get it all ready and chopped up and everything out to you as normal. So we'll reflect on what happens on Tuesday in that, as we have been
Good
doing all
plan.
season.
Good plan.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks to everyone who has got their comments into us, who came up to us yesterday, and every other way that you've engaged with the podcast. We really, really do appreciate that. I would love to keep hearing from you guys, and we're glad that you enjoy the content that we put out. Thanks to the folks at Marsh House, the new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, and to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music. Till next time, which will be a preview of a pretty tasty home game with who have we got? Lincoln on Saturday. From Jimbo and myself, come on, you Atters. Let's keep this unbeaten run going.